Here we have a cell membrane that consists of three proteins, which is the sodium channel, sodium potassium pump, and the potassium channel. The sodium potassium pump will pump out three sodiums for every 2 potassiums that come inside the cell. Now the sodium channel will always be closed and will not allow any sodium to come inside of the cell. But since the potassium channel is leaking, and it will allow the potassium to go outside of the cell due to diffusion, which is a high concentration to low concentration. Inside of the cell, we do have the polyatomic ions, which is the phosphate, sulfate, and these have negative charges. So they attract the potassium back inside of the cell to help the cell to be back at rest, which gives the inside of the neuron a negative charge inside of the neuron and a positive charge outside of the neuron. When neurons send a signal, we can measure the electricity produced by a neuron. We will start at negative 70 millivolts, which is our stimulus. Once we have a stimulus, we will move up to negative 55, which is our threshold. While that is going on, our sodium channels will open, which will make the cell less negative. Then our sodium channels will close, and we will have the potassium gates open. Once our potassium gates are open, it will cause the potassium to rush inside of the cell, which will cause repolarization. But when we let too much potassium inside of the cell, which will cause hyperpolarization because we're letting too much potassium rush out of the cell. Inside of our cell, we do have polyatomic ions, which will attract the potassium back inside of the cell, and the sodium potassium pump will keep working and will be allowing in and out sodium and the potassium, which will bring our cell back to the resting potential. So mainly this is the everyday thing that our cells go through and that they do to keep us going. So the sodium potassium pump will pump in and out all the time, the sodium and the potassium, and that is the action potential of our cells and our neurons that keep us going.